So our topic today is the new art of hiring smart. And when you think about the human resources function and you think about great management and great leadership, it really does start with that very first step, which is making a great hire. Think about some of the great hires that you've seen in your own organizations, maybe that you've actually helped to execute. A great hire can benefit an organization literally for years and years to come. On the other hand, we've all seen some hires that didn't work out. Chet Holmes, who does a lot of consulting in the area of sales, estimates that the average bad hire costs about $60,000 for every organization. And as we know, a bad hire can lead to even a lot more than that. And a bad hire is not only has an impact on the organization, but also on the individual and all the folks that work there. So it's really incumbent upon us to always try to do our best in terms of our hires, and there really is a growing body of knowledge and science behind that. And so we are very excited today that Robin Matern is with us. Robin brings a very strong background in HR. She is the Vice President of Sales and Enterprise Solutions for Profiles International, and she has been with the company now dating back to 1997. She is meticulous with her client accounts, highly proficient in all of Profile's assessment tools, leadership programs, finding holistic solutions for clients. And her clients include companies that you've heard of, like Eastman Chemical, Airgas, Applebee's Restaurants, University of Phoenix, Netspan, just some of her current ones. She also was the co-founder of Petra Group, a consulting firm in Charlotte, North Carolina, a number of years ago. She attended East Tennessee State University, and she is here today to share with us on this very important topic. So please join me in giving a wonderful round of rock welcome to Robin Matern.
Good afternoon. Yeah, so it's not a Texas accent. It's a Tennessee accent. And North Carolina, but it kind of blends in with the Texas culture, right? So everybody's like, you kind of sound like you're Texas, but there's something else going on there. It's called Southern twang. It's the true South. Tennessee and North Carolina. It's kind of funny to me around here, people say, oh, you're from the East Coast. But I kind of think I guess I am, according to a lot of Texans. So it's my pleasure to be here today. Thank you very, very much. Before I introduce Profiles International to you, and some things maybe you haven't considered about the new art of hiring smart. So we think that just means we're kind of tunnel visioned a lot of times when it comes to putting people in jobs, and there's a lot to it. So my presentation today is heavy, heavy, heavy data. I'll try to make it as fun as possible, as exciting as possible. So I'm a data freak, right? At Profiles International, we measure what people are most interested in. And there's 6 different things that we choose that people are interested in. One of my highest interests is technical interest, so scientific data. That's a good thing, because that's what I've been doing for 16 years now with Profiles International. But how many HR execs and leaders do I have in the room? Do we have here? None? Okay, so so that's interesting, because what we're finding is with hiring today, you'll be surprised who best-in-class companies include in that hiring process. So let me introduce you to Profiles International first. I'm going to do just a little bit about Profiles, and then I want to get to the data. We are truly a global organization. Our footprint is in 122 countries. So that's really awesome to see how much we've grown in the past few years. I started with Profiles, not from the very beginning, but a long time ago, and I'm from North Carolina and Tennessee, worked in North Carolina with Profiles in the field, and they recruited me to the corporate office 7 years ago. I used to be one of their really, really spectacular sales reps way back in the early years. And our founder and CEO say, come to corporate. And I'm like, no, I'm coming to Texas. I'm not living in Texas. I'm too hot. I've been coming to Texas for years for our conferences, and I live in Waco because that's where our corporate offices are. And I can't handle this. Now, the humidity on the East Coast, where I'm from, is horrendous. You guys think we have humidity here, but we do not. This is never humid. You're going to Charlotte, North Carolina. They would say, come to Texas. Come work with us. We're going to open a new retail department. We want you to have that open. No, I'm not doing it. Here in 2005, I came for the interview, and I've stayed that long. I can't tell you that I was going to stay for the first year, so I on purpose didn't go back home Thanksgiving and Christmas the first year, because how many of you have been to Waco? Okay, my point. It's a nice place to live once you get used to it, and I'm right down the road from Austin and Round Rock and Yorktown, and right down the road from Dallas and Fort Worth. So, but it was a little interesting to get used to. My first experience getting out of the moving van, moving to Waco, was stepping on ant hill. Fire ant hill. Robin is allergic to everything that crawls and stings. I got to go to work my first day with my foot as big as a football. So welcome to Waco, right? But I love Texas. I've been here 7 years. And so, again, but we are a global organization. Our assessments are in 122 countries plus. We're always going into new unexplored territory in the assessment industry. And all of our assessments, all of our materials are validated and produced in those languages. So right now we're in 32 languages. So we can go wherever we need to, and we're very, very proud of that. So Profiles International is an organization that provides you with tools that you can use for your human capital. So we go the gamut of applicant tracking systems, background checks, but we're specialists in assessments. So we look at leadership development, selection tools, anything that you want to coach, train, develop your human capital, your people, that's what we specialize in. These are some of the clients we do business with. I won't elaborate on that. But we do business with huge organizations, Fortune companies, and we also work with organizations who have 5, 10, 50 employees, because we realize that people are what make your business or break your business. And so no matter what size your organization, and that's about as much as I'm going to plug Profiles International, please let me know if you have any questions about that later, or you have my business card on your table. Also on the table, complimentary of our CEO, Bud Haney, is our most recent book. So we're not in the publishing business, but we have published our newest book, Leadership Charisma. We will be more than happy to come on site and speak to you about Leadership Charisma. It's a fun type seminar, and the book on the table is complimentary of Profiles International. I'm staticky. But if you have, if there's extras on the table, if you would like those, please take them. More than happy for you to have those. We have some extras if you'd like to take with you. All right, so how many golfers do we have in the room? We have so many golf courses around here. I'm surprised we don't have more. My mom and her husband are avid golfers. They golf almost every day. But I want to begin with this, and I want you to think about this, because what I want to talk about is best in class. So between 1980 and 2004, the average margin of victory on the PGA Tour in major tournaments was under 3 strokes. Less than 1 stroke per round difference. Winners took home an average of 76% more than those who were in second place. So it's not enough to be good when you can be the best. So we do a lot of good. We have a lot of good selection processes. There's a lot of good things we do. But in 2012, you actually have the tools available to you to be best in class. And that's what I want to share with you today. Hiring is an exercise in risk. How many of you know that? How many times, I like the hands in the back. How many times have that and the other thing. You get them in the job, and 90 days later, what happened? So there's a lot that we can do to improve our capabilities of hiring the right person. Talent acquisition is a lot more than just posting a job rec. It's a lot more than just making a job offer. It's a series of sourcing activities. Let me share with you what best-in-class organizations achieve. And this is going to get us started in talking about how we can get to that best-in-class. And there's actually things that we can do. The Aberdeen Group, who's heard of the Aberdeen Group? Aberdeen Group is an awesome organization who gathers data and then publishes that data. I don't love everything they do. I don't read everything they do because they send me a new white paper literally almost every day. But the talent acquisition life cycle is really what caught my eye a little bit about 6 months ago. We've been talking about this around Texas and around the country with our clients. Best-in-class organizations achieve this. Twice as many of their organizational goals over the course of the year as all others. Twice. 5 times the improvement in customer satisfaction as compared to all others. 5 times, that's a lot. And 9% reduction in cost per hire versus no change among all others. What would you do with 9% of cost savings per hire? Do you do a turnover report? Do you know what your cost of hire is? We can help you with that at any point that you would like to talk about that. I'm sorry about the static. I'm not sure what I'm doing. All right, so the data that I'm going to get to show you is going to talk about what elements make the difference between cultivating the ability to hire a rock star contributor instead of a string of expectation misfits. How many have hired an expectation misfit like Joe? He comes to the interview, he's awesome. He shows up and it's like his evil twin is in the room. It looks like Joe. It's not Joe. It can't be Joe. As a matter of fact, we are specialists in hiring the right people, and every now and then we kind of get fooled too. One lady we hired not long ago came to work with a different name the first day. One concept, though, that organizations who are best in class, that they do differently, and that's knowing. They know these things. They know where the organization is headed. They know the skills and behaviors required to get there. They know the culture. That's a buzzword right now. How many people have heard in your organization, we're changing the culture. We're going toward a cultural change. Let's measure the culture. And that's an interesting trend right now. They know what success in each job role looks like, where to find the individuals who meet those needs, and how to build relationships with them. All right, so the war for talent, that's a term that's been coined, oh my goodness, probably in the 1990s. But the war still rages on. With Round Rock in this area being one of the fastest growing areas in the whole country, think about your opportunities to hire the best person for that growth. Because with growth comes economic development. With economic development comes construction and comes hiring more people. So do you have a plan in place to get those right people on the job? Here's what we see among all organizations surveyed in this particular survey that Aberdeen did. The very, very number one of all respondents, the number one thing, increasing competition in the marketplace for top talent. That's the number one thing that they're concerned about. So, have you thought about where I'm going to get my talent from one week to the next week, to the next month, to the next year? How do you start to do that? How do you start to look at recruiting top talent? The second most important thing is shortages of required skills available in the labor pool. We did a study, goodness, it's probably 5 years ago now, maybe 6 years ago, and we predicted that talent in the workplace, we would have skill shortages. Right now, in the United States alone, anything in the sciences, big shortage. Engineering, premium pay for those particular jobs, architecture, civil engineering. It's a huge shortage in the workplace. The third thing was pressure to meet the company's growth objectives. Those are the three things they're really concerned about. But you know what? It's not about the general ability to woo candidates to your pretty websites and to your social networking sites. It's about finding the right skills, the right cultural fit, and the right experience. All right, so let's talk about this a little bit. What is the right website? You know, you can spend all this money to have these websites put up, but really, what do you need? What is it that you need to attract and retain the right people? The right candidate experience. Okay, so I work in this business every day. The right candidate experience. What's that mean? At Profiles International, we've done something that's really interesting. So we do online assessment, right? And so we have this generation of XY Gen that are our next up and coming, and we have some in the room. I actually did a little conference in San Antonio with traditionalists, baby boomers, X and Y gens. It was the most interesting seminar I've ever done because I had to keep people from fighting with each other. Okay, because, and hear me out, traditionalists are over here, you X and Y genners, you're so disrespectful, you're texting, you don't talk to us, you're emailing, and so baby boomers are on the cusp of all of it. They kind of go back and forth. And then the X and Y gens aren't going to change their ways. This is the wave of the future. And the reason I'm telling you this, if you're not doing social networking, including that in your talent acquisition, you're missing some awesome talent. So at the end of the conference, we kind of all came to an agreement that we could all get along. But, you know, traditionals and some of the older baby boomers think some of the Y gen and X gen are disrespectful. And we had the conversation, no, that is the way it is. This is the way we communicate. This is the way we actually will attract and retain better people. Asking the right questions. How many use assessment in your organization? Job matching assessment, leadership development, 360s, coaching, training. There's a huge opportunity in the assessment industry. Look, awesome products that a lot of organizations produce for you to use. All right, so I want to talk about best in class. I want to define what best in class according to Aberdeen was. But here is what the most important metrics are when we look at measured organizations and we coin them or categorize them as best in class. Here's the most important metrics. Quality of hire, customer satisfaction. Hey, that's kind of interesting. We're connecting our employees to customer satisfaction. Have you thought about that? Ongoing employee performance. And what I mean by that is long-term versus 1 year. So best-in-class organizations, they are looking at performance management ongoing for their employees. Not just let's give you a performance review for the first year and see how you did, and then if you didn't do so good, we're going to give you a 360 and tell you how bad you were, but we're really not going to do anything for you. That's not what best-in-class organizations do. It's ongoing, long-term employee performance reviews. Hiring manager satisfaction. Does it matter if my manager is satisfied with me? Yes, it does. It does matter. Employee engagement. Oh, that's a big buzzword. How many of you have conducted an employee engagement survey in your organization? Big buzzword. What is engagement? Engagement is different than satisfaction. Engagement is an emotional connection to the organization. So let me put it this way. I've been with Profiles International since 1997. There's no other assessment company that I would probably ever work for. And I say probably because I never say never, because when you say never, you're going to have to do it, right? You're forced to do something you really don't want to do. But that's emotional attachment. Emotional attachment engagement is, I'm not going to go across the street for $2 more an hour because I am emotionally attached and connected to my organization. It's really important that you know where your employee base is. Do you know if your employees are fully engaged in their jobs with your organization? And then achievement of organizational objectives. These are the most important metrics for best in class. Now let's define best in class. Best in class is the top 20% of performance scores. All right, here's what best in class accomplished over the other two classes that I'm going to talk about. 95% of first-year employees are retained. Wow. I don't see that very often. I'm in the business of helping my clients reduce turnover. When someone tells me they retain 95% of their employees, spectacular, more than best in class. 82% employees hired in the last 12 months met first performance milestones on time. Wow, think about that. So how many of your employees, if you did a performance review with them, for them, would meet their performance milestones on time the first year? First years are critical. I see a lot of organizations bring people in and not give them what they need, the tools they need to be successful, or they're just a mismatch, like we talked about in the beginning. And 16% year-over-year improvement in hiring manager satisfaction. So best in class are attracting people that they're keeping. They're ongoingly looking at their performance and reviewing that. And 16% year-over-year hiring manager satisfaction, that's awesome. So it sounds like one big happy family, doesn't it? Well, I work with a lot of Fortune companies. Believe me, they have just as many struggles as all of us do. But some of them do kind of make me jealous. I sat down with a really, really large oil company that's based in Dallas. And they really are. They're a Fortune company. But it's like their best friends. How do they achieve that? Industry average. This is the middle 50% of the people the companies that we surveyed or that was surveyed, performance scores. Here's what industry average do. Now be thinking about your organization. Maybe you know what you're doing, maybe you have the information, but think about this. 57% of first-year employees are retained. What was it with best in class? 95. Wow, that's a big difference. So it's not really bad to be average, but look how different it is than being best in class. 33% of employees hired in the last 12 months met first performance milestones on time. Wow, that's compared to 82% of best in class. And then we see a 3% year-over-year improvement in hiring manager satisfaction, way different than 16%. And let's look at the laggards. We have no laggard organizations in this room, okay? But I just want you to see the difference. And I'm going to talk to you about some of the things that the best in class does. And it's things that we all can accomplish. They're not expensive. It's not a lot of time consuming. It's just a process that we get in place. So laggards, 28% of first year employees are retained. Man, that's even, if we even compare that to the industry average, that's a lot lower. 20% of employees hired in the last 12 months met first performance review, and 1% decrease in hiring manager satisfaction. We don't want to be laggards, we know that. So this is how we categorize, or how Aberdeen categorized the groups. All right, so when we're looking at putting best in class, when we look at best in class organizations, putting people in jobs, here is the best in class criteria for what they're looking for. Think about this, internalize this when you're looking for your next employees. How well will the candidate fit into my team's culture? Have you ever brought someone into the organization and they were a great fit for the job? You probably did assessment, you measured everything you could, but something wasn't right. The performance, if you look at the metrics, if they were in sales, they're meeting their numbers. If they were in, leadership, they're meeting their performance review. But something's not right. They don't fit the culture. Have you ever seen what really happens when a cultural fit or misfit is there? He's a great person. He just doesn't fit into our culture. That's one of the biggest things that organizations are looking for. They're also looking for assessments for competencies. How many of you assess for competencies in the workplace? It's really important. Behavior or attitude assessments. This was not written by Profiles International. However, it's an awesome commercial for us because we do this. It's exactly what we do. But when you put people in jobs that they can they do the job? You've got to think about that when we're putting people in jobs, because you know what? Behavior and attitude is easier to measure, and a lot of times because we don't really want to measure cognitive ability, we don't really want to know if that person can actually process the information that we need them to process on a certain level, we just kind of stick with behavioral assessments. Now, behavior is important because behavior tells you how they're going to do the job, but not if they can do the job. So a lot of times we assess for behavior, and we're like, oh yeah, she's going to do the job the way we want her to do it, but she can't really cognitively do the job. I'll give you a good example. You guys are going to laugh. Because what I wanted to do when I grew up was be an airline pilot. Well, guess what? My eyesight would never allow me to be an airline pilot. I have to wear too much correction. And so I behaved the way, I would fit that job, but I can't do the job. It's not going to be the job for me. So a lot of times, are you an airline pilot? Okay, you have to tell me why you raised your hand.
Oh, I was putting up the.
Oh yeah. Anybody got lighters? I'm dating myself. Sorry. But this is what Best in Class actually need for candidate fit. That's what they're looking for. All right, now here's something I'm hoping doesn't shock you, but I got a feeling it's going to. And let me explain this, because you can't see this because it's too small for you to read probably from where you are. But there are things that Best in Class, average, and laggards do very, very differently. Here's the biggest issue, or the biggest, most important thing that Best in Class does. Now we see that average also accomplish this. Strengthen the ability to identify talent most likely to succeed. Can I predict if Robin's going to hit the ground running like a top performer when I give her the job and run with it and be successful and be a top performer? The second is to proactively build a candidate pipeline. Now, I'm going to emphasize this a couple times. Proactively build a candidate pipeline. Proactively, what's that mean? That means I'm going to do it all the time. I'm going to start before I need the talent, okay? So we're in a 5-year growth cycle, right? And I know that I'm going to need talent in 5 years. I'm going to wait 5 years to look for that person, to hire that person? Absolutely not. I'm going to start getting those people in my pipeline right now. I'm going to put them in maybe a high potential leadership pipeline or a high potential sales pipeline. We have to start before we need the talent, because we have very much lacking of skills in the workplace right now. And this is one of the biggest things every organization can do to start to make a huge difference in your employee base. Create a better candidate experience. I was talking about X and Y events. And let me talk to you about what candidate experience really means. We have a lot of online assessment, right? We've been doing this for a long time, 20 years or more. But the workplace and the people that we're hiring, the candidates, the applicants, have really changed. Remember I said everybody has a computer in their hand all the time? Hey, your iPhone is a computer. The processor in your iPhone or your smartphone is a computer. We're constantly just doing this. So we have to make sure that these people that we're attracting, we hold their attention. So if we put them on the assessments, way back when we had the DOS software that we had to plug in, we went online. We were the first assessment organization to go online with our assessments. That's pretty common now. But then we found that we were having a particular generation or two not complete the assessment. So guess what we did? We created an animated character, an avatar, that comes on screen. How many of you ever taken a Profiles International assessment? If you want to take one complimentary, let me know. You have my business card. You can see how it works. An animated character directs you through each and every assessment. She'll tell you this is how long it's going to take. She stands there after each section is completed and tells you, hey, you did a good job. Now it's time for the math section. You can use a calculator. And that we have retained and improved that candidate experience dramatically. We did a study, and more candidates that were not completing assessments for our clients begin to complete the assessments. So you have to create a better candidate experience. You have to hold their attention. That does mean social networking. That does mean good websites. That does mean good job boards. And then building a talent acquisition culture. And again, that kind of looks at proactively building your candidate pipeline. When the CEO takes a vested interest in that particular acquisition culture, that's a best-in-class organization. All right, so what I want to talk about more than anything right now is continuous process. Any of you been involved in continuous process, any type of engineering process, any type of, way back when, I'm going to date myself again, just-in-time manufacturing, then we call it re-engineering, then we call it lean, whatever it was, you know. So we've called it a lot of things, but it's a continuous process. We have to start to treat our candidate pool, our recruitment process, our talent acquisition as a continuous process. This is one of the biggest things that you can do to be more successful in getting the right people in the right jobs. Hey, we have a new engineer come into the organization. How many of you are engineers? How many of you work for engineering organizations? How many of you paid for your kids to go to school to be an engineer? I have. So what we know is, because they graduate, there's still a lot to learn. So a lot of times, when a new engineer or anybody from a particular degree comes into an organization and you see huge potential, put them in a high potential leadership or put them in a high potential pipeline and start to groom them. Within 4, 5, 6 years, you will be amazed at the progress someone makes when we're coaching them. And here's why. It has nothing to do with how they learn. It has nothing to do with how much they can learn. They got an engineering school. They're a doctor. I mean, they can do it. But we took interest in them. What we find is when we're coached, when a human being has a coach or a mentor, that acceleration is 80% more than someone who is left to their own devices without any feedback. Because sometimes feedback is painful. Human beings crave that feedback. One thing we have to be very careful of in this electronic society is that we don't have everything kind of resemble that mechanical electronic. We have to take a vested interest in our employees. But that's where we really see improvement, is when you put someone into the pipeline and really focus on them. But we see here, look at the best in class versus industry and laggards. 50% have a continuous improvement process. They identify and cultivate relationships with top prospects. That's always a priority. And reactive, look at the reactive. Best in class are not reactive. Laggards are very reactive. So I would rather be proactive than reactive. Have you ever met someone who is just totally reactive? I call it emotional. It's okay to be emotional. I'm excitable, as you can tell. I'm high energy. But have you ever met someone who just reacts and doesn't think about that? That's the way it really is when we just put someone in a job just because we have a warm body that we have to get in place. I'm still amazed at the clients or the people that I meet in business that will tell me, hey, if they can fog a mirror, I'm going to put them in the job. I just need that warm body. All right, so let's talk about candidate relationship management. CRM. Anybody heard of CRM? Well, that's really what we have to think about. We have to treat these people who are coming into our pipeline, our applicant pool. That's a critical piece. So here we go talking about technology, but I want you to take this very, very seriously. Do you have a career portal that catches someone's eye? Because let me tell you something, your competitors are going after those same employees. Hey, I've been doing what I've been doing for a long time, and I had one of the largest assessment companies call me at my desk at work. Like, really? Do you want to get me in trouble? Is this being taped, or is my CEO on the other line trying to see if I'm loyal to the organization? That's what they're doing is calling, hey, you know, we're not going to send you an email and say, it's not the job for you. But we're going to call and talk to you. We're going to keep you in that candidate pipeline. We're going to be personal with you. And then utilizing software to regularly track all candidate communications. This is really important. It's kind of boring. We talk about technology. It's kind of boring. But these are things that you can do that are not expensive, trust me, to get better candidates into your organization. A lot of people think that all of these job boards and all of this company career portals are horribly expensive. You know what? Some of them cost $200 a month. $2,400 a year. Can you invest that to get better people in jobs? And that's not a Profiles International tool. Those are tools that you have right now in technology out there to help you. All right, there's one most differentiated strategy that we found in Best in Class. They created talent acquisition culture as a foundation for all of these categories. Best in Class are 55% more likely than all others to indicate that building a corporate culture where everyone views talent acquisition as part of their job is critical. What does that mean? That means when we have our website up and you come on and you fill out an application, guess what? You don't just get correspondence and talk to the recruiter. You get to be involved with the hiring manager, or the hiring manager is involved with you from the beginning. Wouldn't that be really awesome? To go into a job for an interview and not just talk to a recruiter, which recruiters are great. They have to get the warm bodies in there. But I get to talk to this person I'm really going to work for and do things with. What if the CEO would interview me? Wouldn't that be awesome? At Profiles International, our CEO and president interviews every single person that we hire. Administrative jobs, janitorial jobs, every single position, our CEO, he interviews them extensively. Sometimes even takes them to lunch. Wants to make sure we have the right person fitting the right job in our culture. Because as an organization all have their own specific cultures. We were laughing about it at Profiles last week about how some of us kind of let everything roll off our backs. And then some people get kind of, they get more upset about things. And we kind of came to the conclusion that those of us who let it roll off our backs have created that culture. We're part of that culture. We help create that. How many of you in your organization, you're so comfortable that you know decisions that are made, that you know that things that change, that Profiles International has gone through dramatic change in the past 2.5 years. Our CEO, Jim Serbasky, passed away suddenly without us knowing that he was even sick. We were thrown into panic because, every organization has a dream machine, and the organization has a CFO. Well, our president right now was a CFO, and he's pretty much across the board, always logical. Things have to make sense. For Jim Serbasky, if any of you knew him, he was truly a dream machine. He could really kick you in the pants when you did something you didn't like, and he would cry with you when you cried when he was kicking you in the pants. But then you felt okay when you left. So imagine losing that. So we've gone through a ton of changes, but our culture was there. We healed. It was really awesome to watch what happened. Some organizations would fall apart when the dream machine left. But when you have a company culture that your employees fit, they stick around. Guess what? We lost nobody. None of our employees left. Nobody got so scared that they left. And since his passing, Profiles International has even grown. And I think we learned from his passing from what he taught us. So that's one of the things that we really want to create is the foundation for all of these strategies. I'm going to fast forward some of these. And I want to, because I know I'm kind of losing time here. Let me just go past this. We talked about technology, performance management. I've prepared too much data for you today. If you'd like to have this or the white paper, the PowerPoint, let me know. But here's where I want to kind of stop and then ask if you have any questions. There is a life cycle for your employees. And you have to start with selection. Now what I suggest you do, is look at a great onboarding system. So can anybody define onboarding for me? What does that mean? Anybody in HR, what's onboarding mean?
It's really welcoming the employees into the team, and being a part of the organization, and that they're valuable, and that contribute.
Exactly. And making them feel like a part of the family right from the beginning. A lot of organizations don't have an onboarding process. So that employee is kind of wondering, hey, what's going on? It's important that we get them everything they need. Hey, they need that employee handbook. They need it immediately. They need to know what is expected in the organization. So onboarding is extremely important. There are a lot of really cool applicant tracking systems out there right now does everybody know what an applicant tracking system is? It's when you apply online, and then you get the assessment online, and then you get to do everything electronically. Some of these will deliver onboarding information for you immediately. If you have a huge applicant pool and you're hiring a lot of people, manpower is sometimes not there. So you can electronically deliver some of this. So onboarding is really important. But once we select an onboard, we need to make sure we are coaching and developing and training immediately. We need to start to make sure we're really looking at our pipeline. Who has undeveloped potential? Who has mobility to go further in the organization? Why don't we start to identify that before we meet someone there? So, hey, I need a sales manager. Oh, wow, I got to go to the outside and look for someone. Why didn't I groom someone from the very beginning? That's the culture. That's best in class. That's most successful. And assessment. I didn't mention assessment because, hey, we're an assessment organization. But if you're not assessing the talent that comes through your applicant pool immediately, if you're not assessing those people in your organization that are up for promotion, as far as job matching, job fit, there's some great tools out there that can help you predict if that person is going to be successful. I'm sorry, did someone say something? Somebody say amen. But these are the steps. This is the talent acquisition life cycle. This is what we need to be aware of. If we take it a slice at a time, what did someone say? You can eat an elephant if you eat it a little bit at a time, a little bite at a time. I don't get that right, hardly ever. But your talent acquisition process, if you start with selection and assessment, you can get there a little bit at a time. And trust me, it's not one of those things that's going to cost you millions of dollars. It's going to cost a process. You've got to get a process in place. So I'm going to end right now and ask if you have any questions. If anybody would like to talk about assessment, any of the tools that I've talked about today, we're more than happy. If you need extra books, let us know because we did bring some extra. And of course, again, my card is on the table if you want to talk about talent acquisition life cycle. Yes, you have a question?
Do you do assessments for healthcare providers?
Yes, ma'am. We do assessment for every type of organization. We actually have a customer service profile that is especially for healthcare. That's validated for healthcare. Any other questions? Yes.
You do on-site for outsourcing or just online assessments? What
We
scope of your work?
will accommodate your needs. So we don't really do, we don't do recruiting. We can direct you to that, to a good recruiter or to a good organization. But we do on-site assessment. So we'll come into your organization, do an on-site, do gap analysis, show you where you can actually improve in your human capital. And then we also have a consulting group. So if you would like leadership development, one-on-one coaching, we can also provide that.
Another question there.
Yes.
You have a local Profiles International consultant here in the area. How does that differ than you're going through someone local or going online? Tell me the differences there.
Okay, well, so we support all of our local representatives from our corporate office. So, for instance, Nancy is very intelligent about how she does business. She realizes that a lot of the large accounts that she has are very hard to manage, so she brings corporate in. But if you have a very, a small organization, she can certainly handle your need, or she'll just refer it to